When you think of TikTok, it's like a platform where you're trying to go viral ultimately,
Yeah.
right? Instagram is kind of this brand building, almost like a magazine, right? Like pretty pictures, high quality. And I think the storytelling element is saying, hey, like Donna said, if I'm going to open YouTube as a consumer, usually I'm subscribing to an artist or something I'm interested in, and I'm looking at long form, and shorts is like a component of that. If I want to find only short form content, most likely I'm going to go to TikTok, right? Or Instagram. So you have the opportunity to create short form, create long form, create a vlog, and really like kind of touch a user in ways that you couldn't otherwise on other platforms.
What's going on? Welcome to The New Music Business. I'm your host, Ari Herstand, author of How to Make It in the New Music Business, the book, 3rd edition, all formats, hardcover, ebook, audiobook. Wherever you find books, you can grab the book. Today, my guests are George Karalexis and Donna Budica of TEN2 Media. They are a YouTube-focused company. They specialize on marketing and monetization and collection, all within the YouTube universe. And this entire episode, we just talk YouTube for music, YouTube for artists, labels, all of that stuff. We're not talking about specifically YouTube Music, the DSP, the streaming service. We're talking about YouTube as a whole, that billions of people use, the YouTube that you know and love. YouTube has really not been enough part of the conversation over the last 5 years. It's not new anymore. It's not as sexy as TikTok, and it's not driving the conversation like Spotify has, but it's massively important. And as you're going to hear from both George and Donna, a lot of the stats about how people are using YouTube, how they're interacting with it, how they're discovering music. Donna mentions that it's the number one music discovery platform, and she talks about what that means on it. And then all the money that is collected from this. I do reference the story that Kristen Robinson of Billboard, the Billboard writer there, she came on the show last year to talk about the story that she broke, the investigative report on how there was this company, these two guys that essentially siphoned off $26 million, I think it was, away from other artists and labels, and they pocket it themselves. They're both, I think, going to jail. You can check out that episode if you want to learn more about that. But the reason that they were able to do this, the reason that these fraudsters were able to come in and steal this money so easily is because nobody really understands how YouTube works and how the monetization works. And it's so massively complicated that if you don't have a company doing this for you, not just your distributor, you're most likely leaving money on the table. And now the challenge is TEN2 Media, their company, only works with a very small amount of artists and labels. That's going to make it worth their while. Their business model is they work on commission. They take a percentage. There aren't that many companies out there. There are some that help you manage your YouTube and collect revenue for you. And we talk about that. We get into that quite a bit at the end on how artists and labels and managers can approach this. So if you're wondering about how to maybe up your YouTube game, how to use YouTube these days, all the various components that exist within YouTube, from shorts to music videos to just vlog content, storytelling, lyric videos, all the stuff that, playlist, anything that exists on YouTube, they break it down and really go deep into it. And then we break down how YouTube monetization works and those components, and UGC, user generated content. If you don't know what UGC means, we throw that term around a lot. That's just users uploading their own videos, maybe using your music or making a cover of your song, something like that. So very fascinating episode. This is all things YouTube. Have not done one of these in a minute. You can find TEN2 Media. It's just 10 spelled out, TEN with the number 2 Media. You can check them out on their website. You can find all of us that make the show happen at Ari's Take on the socials. Find me at Ari Herstand on Instagram. Visit aristake.com and get on the email list. That's the best place to stay in touch with us. Get on their email list. If you wouldn't mind just pausing this episode right now, leaving us a 5-star review on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. Leave us a comment on YouTube or Spotify. You can leave comments on Spotify now. Get the subscribe button, follow, however you're interacting with us. If you want us to keep doing this, if you want us to show up in your feed, hit that follow, subscribe button. All right, let's kick into the show. Donna, George, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Great to be here.
Yeah. So, we don't really talk about YouTube as frequently, I would say, in just the general conversation of within the music industry. I would say a lot of the conversation revolves around the more or less traditional streaming platforms, if you can call them traditional at this point, the DSPs of Spotify and Apple Music and whatnot. And then there's been a lot of conversation around TikTok the last 5 years. That is pretty much what everyone is talking about, is just TikTok. And then Instagram kind of comes into the picture, and we talk, and some moves the needle a little bit, but that's more of a fan engagement tool. And TikTok is how we're like discovering and promoting the records, and on and on and on. We like, this is the conversation that the music industry has been having for the last 5 years or so. YouTube, which is still a massive, massive platform, for some reason doesn't get a lot of conversation. It doesn't get much discussion around it. I would love for you guys to just kind of talk about what you see is happening on YouTube, specifically within music, and why you have decided to focus on YouTube, and kind of what you're doing with TEN2 Media.
Okay, great.
Whomever wants to take that, I'll
Yeah,
you're
I'll
too
take
polite.
Yeah.
Who wants to field it?
I'll start it.
George, hit me.
Good. Okay, so that's like a good start. I think YouTube's an interesting thing, right? We kind of saw the writing on the wall post-pandemic that everyone just had to become a content creator naturally to just stay relevant and engage with their fans. And I think what YouTube did a really good job, and now it's paying dividends, is they introduced a multi-format platform with the introduction of shorts. And right, historically in the music industry, YouTube's been a place where people just upload their music video and they kind of forget about it. So, you might follow your favorite artist, and if you're lucky, you'll get 3 or 4 uploads a year. I think what's happened now is people have realized the power of YouTube, how you can do merch integrations, ticketing integrations, the super chat, live stream, short form content, long form, YouTube music, really making ground. And it's almost become this like super platform where you can communicate. On top of that, I think with the evolution of like smart television and just like bandwidth becoming, more accessible, YouTube's invaded television, which, right, every month they're just kind of announcing that they're building this huge lead ahead of Netflix, ahead of Hulu, and they're the number one platform on televisions for streaming. So I think to kind of summarize that is we very early kind of saw this trend and then realized, there's this opportunity to start a company that hyper focuses on YouTube because there are a lot of nuances. It's unlike any other platform. If you were to draw a Venn diagram, YouTube's part DSP, part social network. And when you've kind of find the harmony of those two, then you've hit that sweet spot. And now fast forward to on the eve of like 2025, YouTube has this huge lead on connected televisions. It's growing faster in terms of subscription revenue and subscription subscribers than other DSPs, what are starting to flatten out. And I think people are realizing, wow, if I have a YouTube specific strategy, I can communicate with my fans in ways I can't on other platforms. I can monetize it. And I'm able to cultivate a community in a way that I can't otherwise do on other platforms. So I think that's kind of the thesis on why we're here. I don't know, Dawn, if you want to add to that.
Yeah, I mean, I also think there's an element of the fact that it has such robust analytics that are so readily available on the back end. Granted, it can be overwhelming if you kind of like don't understand or don't dissect it down. And that's a big component of what we do is education related, so that everyone's kind of understanding, being able to make better decisions holistically. And that's just like the transparency of the platform inherently lends itself to kind of supporting artist development ecosystem, or like building a business, basically a sustainable business around the artist brand. is rooted in that kind of transparency. And I think unlike any other platform, really, it kind of leads the way there.
Right. It does have a lot of features that a lot of the other DSPs don't. I mean, Spotify is Spotify for artists, Apple Music has Apple Music for artists, but those analytics are extremely limited compared to what you can see in YouTube Studio, for instance, on the back end. Like skip rates, we don't get to see that on Spotify or anything like that, or Apple. But on YouTube, I mean, you can see exactly where they watched to the point, to the second, which is really cool and interesting. Depending, I'm not sure how I would use that. I'm not going to change my songwriting because whatever. But I'm curious how you're seeing actually in practice artists are effectively approaching YouTube now with everything else. Are you seeing, like, what is the purpose of YouTube right now? You talked about kind of fan interaction and engagement. Okay. But how are they doing this that they're not maybe doing that on the other social platforms or on streaming services? What is their approach right now that artists are doing this effectively?
Okay. I'll take the stab at that. So I think artists in general look at YouTube as YouTube. I think what we've done with our clients, we've done a really good job at letting them know that YouTube, again, functions unlike any other platform. So, for example, we have a client who's like a legacy artist who hasn't necessarily released new music. Traditionally, if I'm going to reintroduce that music, I'm going to do an anniversary release or a remaster, etc. And on Spotify, the way that I engage with my followers is basically on a release basis. On YouTube, what we are doing is we're realizing and taking the social network element and saying, hey, we can take these songs, we can repackage them, we can reintroduce them, and we can release them over and over in ways that you couldn't do on Spotify or Apple, right? Because if you release the same songs on Spotify and Apple, the user is just going to pick that one song, and the experience it's an audio experience. So the reintroduction of those, unless there's a major change, doesn't really benefit you, right? Because you like cannibalize. Where on YouTube, it's a visual element. So that's an example of how we're training and working with our clients, like on a catalog basis, where we can look at content, reintroduce it, repackage it, lyric video, visualizer, playlist, compilation. There's so many ways to reintroduce the same set of songs and re-engage and literally generate revenue that otherwise wouldn't exist on the platform, right? So that's kind of like on a catalog basis. And on a frontline basis, we're basically like, this is a DSP and a social network. So let's think about storytelling. Let's think about vlog content. Let's think about different formats, because the user of a lyric video, like if I'm a user and I'm engaging with a lyric video, I might be different than a person who engages with a music video, right? Because on lyric videos, it's lower bandwidth. Maybe I use YouTube as my main DSP. I'm going to put it in a playlist and I'm going to listen to that lyric video as a song opposed to engaging with the video. So I think really it's a multi-format platform. And if we work with managers and artists and labels that understand that, then you manage it differently. And we're creating content and ultimately storytelling and fan engagement in a way that you couldn't otherwise do.
What are you seeing the difference in the approach of this storytelling that you're talking about that works especially well on YouTube that doesn't work on Instagram or TikTok?
Good question. Donna?
I just think fundamentally the nature of the user of YouTube is slightly different than other social media.
Okay.
The user of YouTube is very deliberate in the way that they consume on the platform. It's the number one music discovery platform. It's the number two search engine, period. Obviously, a Google product. And the way that people consume and discover and search for things on YouTube fundamentally is very different than other platforms, which is why the way that you can, I don't want to call it SEO hack, but essentially SEO hack in a way that targets a multitude of audiences. Obviously, each audience segment that you have will consume the ecosystem of content that you put out in a slightly different way. And for that reason, we kind of always go back to this idea of surface area, where the way that you splice and dice this content matrix concept, where it's like long form, short form, if you cover artists can put out stuff, original songs, catalog, there's just a lot of permutations, and thinking about it in a way of maximizing surface area not only helps with discoverability, but also literally you can monetize each component of it in the various formats on YouTube, which is different than other platforms.
And I think, like, when you think of TikTok, it's like a platform where you're trying to go viral ultimately, right? Instagram is kind of this brand building, almost like a magazine, right? Like pretty pictures, high quality. And I think the storytelling element is saying, hey, like Donna said, if I'm going to open YouTube as a consumer, usually I'm subscribing to an artist or something I'm interested in, and I'm looking at long form, and shorts is like a component of that. If I want to find only short form content, most likely I'm going to go to TikTok, right? Or Instagram. So you have the opportunity to create short form, create long form, create a vlog, and really like kind of touch a user in ways that you couldn't otherwise on other platforms.
Right. I'm interested, Donna. You said YouTube is the number 1 music discovery platform. That's surprising to me. Can you explain that a little bit more, what you mean, and where does that come from, and what does that mean, music discovery, in like, how are you quantifying that exactly?
So from a searchability standpoint, like if you hear a song, or a lyric or a visual component of something that you saw somewhere, more users use YouTube to actually discover music, than other platforms.
Okay, so it's not like they're discovering music on YouTube like people are doing on TikTok or on Spotify. It's that they hear a song in the world, they've discovered it somewhere else, and then they're actually turning to YouTube first
as a tool
to listen to that song and dive deeper into that. Okay, that makes more sense to me. Because I think where we're at right now, pending the TikTok ban in the US, which time will tell what happens with that. But TikTok is really the what I would, and I think most would say, is TikTok is actually the number 1 music discovery platform right now for most people. But then you're saying that they are not going. So does that mean like YouTube is kind of a lot of users' primary music listening platform? Because the data shows, Spotify is the number 1 DSP in the world. That means that most people are using that to listen, like subscribe, I should say, by some subscriber base, to subscribe to listen to music. I'm just curious, like, I haven't tapped into YouTube in years. Like, I really haven't paid attention. So educate me. Yeah. Really break it down for me. Like, I know YouTube is still massive, but I just don't know how people are using it. There aren't like YouTubers really, and musicians aren't YouTubers like they were 10, 12 years ago. So I just don't understand how music listeners and artists are using YouTube right now. So help me understand that a little bit more.
Got it. So first of all, YouTube is, again, it's interesting because the music industry tends to think of it as YouTube Music, Spotify, Apple.
Right.
In that context, Spotify is much larger. But when you say YouTube as a whole and unlock beyond YouTube Music, YouTube is way larger than Spotify, right? It's like something like 2 billion people use YouTube every day. Not all of them are using music. So the opportunity for reach is much, much, much larger, right? And I think, kind of just going back to a point Donna made, is because it's the second largest search engine, you're getting, what we're doing is where we've built tools and technology that's able to capture search results and understand like user behavior. So let's say my favorite artist is Led Zeppelin, and I love Led Zeppelin, but today they're not top of mind. And I search like classic rock, and there's tons of playlists on YouTube, UGC. It's this thing called compilations. And I come across this playlist and Led Zeppelin happens to be on it. So now I'm engaging with Led Zeppelin, who I love, but in this moment, I didn't search for them because of the way fundamentally people engage with it. Right. So that's kind of music discovery and how we kind of think about it. And then going back to the point of artists and how artists are using it, again, man, I think you're seeing like NLE Choppa, for example. He's these new wave artists who came up in this world of content creation, your whole life, right? Validation almost is like through social currency, right? Social media. And they're inherently content creators who are also musicians, not content creators trying to be a musician, right? So he's unbelievably viral on TikTok. He's incredible on Instagram. His YouTube channel has almost 10 million subscribers. He has a secondary YouTube channel where he makes vlog content only. And he's literally, you are able to follow his journey. And he's making videos that are YouTube only songs. And a lot of artists do this, like NBA Youngboy, where he'll do a lot of stuff on YouTube, test stuff out, and then sell the lifestyle of his lyrics through these videos. And it's really interesting when you think about it, because you can test things out. You can put YouTube only releases. You can make 5 different versions of the same song, music video. Again, NLE Choppa does that a lot. He'll do 3-4 different video versions of a song. So again, like when you really think about the future of it, traditionally, like the big monolithic artists, yeah, they do interesting stuff on YouTube, but I think the new wave, and that's where we're really excited, is like, how do we educate these existing artists to think different? And then how do we work with these emerging acts and newer indie kind of artists who have this mindset and they're not constrained by a record deal where I've got a 4-album deal, I have to deliver 10 tracks, and then anything outside of that, all of a sudden it's this gray area on royalty payments, and then I'm confined to the traditional model. So it's pretty interesting.
So let's talk about monetization and revenue. You've referenced it a couple times. I think a lot of people are very confused at how monetization works on YouTube. Nobody knows how it works on TikTok or Instagram, but I think YouTube's a little bit clearer. And correct me if I'm wrong and help me understand this a little bit more, because I'm going to just talk about what I think it is, and then you tell me what it actually is. But so on YouTube, we're going to separate YouTube Music as the subscription only streaming service. That's a DSP. But as YouTube, the creator can make revenue when an ad runs on their video, and the creator makes, like, I think it's 55% of the ad revenue or something like that from the video. Now, if that creator is also an artist putting up a song and they own the master, then they can make something from the master somehow. Don't really know how that works. And if they wrote the song, they can make some money on the publishing from YouTube. Don't really understand how that works either. Is it all from the ad revenue? Is it just the ad revenue? Are they making any money from the subscription revenue that YouTube's getting? Help me understand, because I've honestly never really understood how any of this money works on YouTube.
Oh man, we could talk about this for like days. One podcast is not enough, but sure.
Let's go.
Go ahead, George. You can start.
So yeah, I think you nailed it. So there's like a hierarchy of assets, right? And like you said, so if I make a video, I'm creating revenue. That's pretty self-explanatory. You do participate in subscription revenue, premium ads. So people who choose not to have ads and they pay for premium YouTube, which is not just the music service, you can make money from that, right?
Oh, interesting.
So
how does that work?
So let's say you have YouTube on your TV and you love it. You can sign up to YouTube Premium, and any video on YouTube,
I know from the user mean. I mean, how do artists make money from that? Is it like a a pro rata model like how Spotify and Apple Music pays, and you get 0.003 cents per view based on the fractions of your streams versus the total streams on the platform and the total money versus, like, is that how it works? Is that a similar kind of model?
Pretty much. It's like I mean, I don't know if anybody knows the exact answer because it's kind of wild.
The kaleidoscope of the way that it's broken down, I think.
Correct. So so you're an artist. You can make money uploading a vlog. You can make money uploading a song that you have the rights to. And if you wrote it, like you said, you'll make publishing, which is a small percentage, the sound recording, which is a larger, and the video. So there's 3 components on your channel. Then if you have a partner like us, we'll be able to collect user-generated content. So if Donna uploads a video from her birthday and uses your song, we're able to capture that revenue. Then, like you said, you deliver it to YouTube Music and it's available in the Shorts picker. So if I start making short form content, I can pick it and you make revenue through the music, similar to UGC. Now there's a lot of really interesting things, like similar to Twitch. You could subscribe to a channel. I could put gated content that only my subscribers who pay a monthly fee can gain access to, which is pretty cool. Live streaming is also a huge thing. That's something we're really bullish on. You could go live and literally play, and we could run ads on it if we wanted. We could also pre-record, your song and put it on a fireplace because it's Christmas time, and you could loop it and you can generate a revenue stream. You can sell merchandise. So there's a lot of opportunities to monetize. And if you're really thinking about it, it's video, sound recording, publishing, user-generated content, merchandising, live streaming, and subscription, like fans, gated content. It's pretty interesting.
I want to talk about the subscription gated stuff in a second, but the first 3, the nebulous stuff that I don't think anybody really understands how that gets paid. Can you explain how that gets paid and who is it getting paid to? We're talking the ad revenue, the sound recording, the publishing.
Okay. So you have to someone has to distribute your content on YouTube in order to capture the sound recording.
And is that a distributor? Is that like for emerging artists, we're talking, is that a DistroKid, a TuneCore, a Symphonic, or is that a different service that we're talking about here?
Both. And so if I work with like a DistroKid, they're going to put a claim on your channel, right? And it's going to say ineligible. And the ad revenue for the sound recording is going to go to them. And then nothing else is monetized on the video. If you have a publisher or a company that can claim, that publishing portion will be embedded in the sound recording, and that money will go directly to the publisher, the administrator, whoever that is. But again, unless you're in a relationship, there's no way for you to collect that revenue. Similar to like Spotify with a distributor or a company.
Right. Okay. So So tell me about how this works for NLE Chapo, who you said makes 50 versions of one song that they're not all being distributed by his label or distributor. How does that work?
So they're being distributed, but just not to other DSPs. It's YouTube only, right?
So they don't upload directly to YouTube with it, or they do, but they also then send it to their distributor or label and say like, hey, by the way, claim this.
Man, this is the problem with YouTube.
Also, something to preface is that there's really no kind of blanket answer genuinely, and this is not a way to like circumvent the answer, but there is genuinely very rarely a one-size-fits-all situation with the sound recording and the visual component and the YouTube music component and the publishing component. And the way that the assets fit in each other on YouTube as a platform informs where the monetization pieces ultimately go.
So, so this is wildly complicated.
It's crazy.
So let's just break it down. Let's just talk about what you guys do specifically. So TEN2 Media, what do you do?
Okay. What we do, I'm going to kind of answer your previous question because it segues into what we do. So let's say you're an artist and you have a publishing deal. If you upload a video without having a company like us, which we'll explain, or a distributor distribute your audio, your publisher will claim your video and take all the money from you, right? Because YouTube it's like a Russian doll, where the big doll is the video, within that is the sound recording, within that is the publishing, right? And they all have to work in harmony to maximize revenue. So what we do at Baseline when it comes to collecting is we have this thing called a content management system from Google that allows us to distribute video, sound recording content, and claim user-generated content. So we are essentially a distributor for all things YouTube, music and video. Right? So if you're an artist and you want to release a YouTube only version of your song, we would need to then deliver the video and the sound recording in order to maximize revenue and protect from any potential publishing claims if you have a co-writer or you have an admin company. And that publishing would be embedded in the sound recording. If you were to upload it without us, you would monetize at a lower rate, and you would be exposed to potential publishing claims. Does that make sense so far?
Yep.
Okay, gotcha. Cool. So if you think of the company at Baseline, we realize there's opportunity where distributors are putting claims on videos and just monetizing a portion of it, and an artist can't see the revenue. It's really complicated. So no one really has insight to how much am I actually making. So we thought, let's start a business that we monetize everything as a premium asset on the channel level. And part of that allows us to maximize revenue opportunities, as well as provide full transparency so our clients can log in and see exactly how much they're making. And on YouTube, that number it's called RPM, revenue per milli. That's the net after YouTube's cut. So you can see. So if it's, let's say, $4.50, that means I'm making 4,500 per million views on the channel level. Does that make sense?
Yeah, which is higher than most streaming rates, I guess, on the others, which is like Spotify's would be around 3,000 or so per million streams, and Apple's around 4, about the same. And, okay, that's interesting. So, but you said earlier that if I were to just upload directly on YouTube without using another company like you, and I monetize it myself using the YouTube Studio, Creator Studio, and all of that, and I'm like, I would make a lower rate. Why is that?
Couple of reasons. One is you can't deliver a sound recording by yourself, right? Like you need a feed, a distribution feed in order to do that. So you could only upload a video portion of it. And then part of what we do is we have this CMS tool, and we're working so we're able to maximize more surface area, as Donna mentioned, and we're able to work with advertisers to drive higher ad rates on the channel. Because again, most of your revenue will come from advertising, and not all ads are created equal. Not all territories are created equal, right? So like a premium advertiser who chooses to advertise and we traffic on a premium asset in a market like the US is a much higher payout than if you were to upload it and like the local dentist in your market ran an ad over your video.
I want to get back to the $4,500 per million view rate for a second. Can you just clarify that? Where does that's not
a fixed rate. That's not a fixed rate.
Okay.
Most of our clients, honestly, in the US are seeing when they're, and again, the cool thing about YouTube is the longer my video is, the more opportunity I have to place a mid-roll ad, a banner ad, a bumper ad. So I can actually increase your payout, right?
Okay.
Depending on the length. Most of our clients in the US are seeing between like 4,000 and 7,000, if not more, depending on the length of the video per million views, because of how we're able to traffic.
Is that pre-publishing or including publishing?
Publishing's paid separately. That's not including
That's
publishing.
what you're
So
seeing
that's
the money.
master
Okay, so
and
that's
video.
just sound recording and the video creation.
And video. Yeah. And that's on the channel level. Obviously, UGC is monetized lower at a lower rate, but on the channel level. And then again, once you start experimenting with longer form content, so let's say Donna puts up a video of her performing live and it's like 15 minutes, you can then place multiple ads in that video. And now if she makes 4,000 per million, as an example, we might be able to make 6 or 7,000 per million or even higher on that longer video. So that's
But how does that
strategy.
work when you said that premium users aren't seeing ads? So now we're talking without the ads. So there are no ads in that. Are they still making more revenue with longer videos?
So the premium is like somewhat of a fixed number, but the majority of users on YouTube are watching ads. And on the back end, again, kind of how we set this up with the analytics, you can see that. It'll give you a breakdown of premium users, ad users, how much money from each. And you could literally do the math and figure out how much you're making on your own per market. It's pretty interesting.
The thing about YouTube, and this goes back to the very original question about the analytics and how, for example, if you can see the attrition, like where the audience drops off on a video, for example, you can kind of reverse engineer the actual content strategy and the way that you create content and what the videos are like based on those analytics. So using that very specific example where if you see after 12 seconds on a particular video, you have a long intro and there's a higher attrition rate, like audience drop off. Then, for example, don't put a long intro because your audience kind of has a short attention span. They're going to drop off. And you can actually use the analytics and see where the audience is coming from, the territory, where they drop off, and then reverse engineer the actual content that you're putting out so that your audience is more engaged. And then ultimately you earn higher, you put out longer videos. After X amount of time, you can place mid-roll ads, etc. So it's like that transparency and the robustness of the analytics allows you to kind of generate content so that you know what your audience really wants and you're not kind of like shooting in the dark.
Sure, that makes sense. I'm curious because you have so many clients now, you have so many channels, so many videos, so many watchable hours, all of that stuff. Do you know just basically the percentage difference between premium users versus ad versus free users, I guess? Is there like a percentage that you kind of know?
How many people use premium versus ad?
Yeah, is it 10%? Is it 5%? Is it 30%? Is it
Yeah. Good question. I think it's somewhere in like the 10 to 15% range.
Okay.
Sometimes higher. But then, what's interesting is like it's genre based too. So like we've noticed with a lot of our hip hop clients,
interesting, people
are using YouTube as their main DSP. So it's much higher. We have a couple clients where it's over 50%. And it's
premium
because their users are like super users of YouTube and they're choosing YouTube over Spotify, for example, which is really interesting. So it's not like a blanket statement. It's like very much about the genre and the type of user who's engaging with the content.
Yeah. And then when it comes to, you've mentioned UGC a few times, like you used the example of Donna uploading a video and using my song in the background and stuff like that. But when it comes to like, cover videos were a thing. I'm sure there's still people putting up cover video. Honestly, I just like have not been paying attention to YouTube for the last 5, 6, 7 years. I'm assuming that it's there. It's this like, it's just funny because in 2010, 11, every artist was on YouTube. Everyone was creating. Everyone was making cover videos. Everyone, like the 100% of the focus of every artist was YouTube. That was discovery. And then like over the last 4 years, 5 years since TikTok and Instagram, it's just like, the conversation is just like, I just have not been paying attention. which is my own failure. And I think a lot of artists just have like, we just have not put the focus there because all of the conversation, it's like all of the air has been around TikTok and Spotify. But so when it comes to like people making cover songs, and you referenced publishing and stuff like that, do you have a hand in any of that when it comes to the UGC of users making cover videos or using the composition, not necessarily the recording? Do you touch that at all? Do you work with the publishers? How do you work with them? Because clearly, even Donna putting up a video with my recording in the background, there's publishing that is earned from that too. And how do you work all that out?
So right now we're only focused on sound recordings and video, not publishing. So covers, we have people who do covers, and if you do a cover, you're creating a new sound recording, right? So we're able to monetize that. And if we do everything, get the license, do it correctly. So the publisher makes their share, the original writer, and then now we have a new master recording that you can monetize. But most of the UGC we're focused on because we're really hyper focused on trying to work with the premium artists. So there's tons of user generated content, and our focus is how do we collect that? A lot of people try to circumvent and like slow it down, speed it up, add reverb, and they try to manipulate the system. So we're really focused on how do we maximize that and capture all the revenue for our clients when people are trying to do that. And covers are still really popular. I think I have a theory on like 2010, like your era. That's when like video started becoming more accessible, right? And people were like, oh shit, I can make a vlog. I could do my own video protection. Everyone got excited. Smartphones obviously got really advanced. Short form content. It's a lot easier to film a 40-second TikTok than it is to make like a 5-minute video. And I think and you have to like work at it. And I know this is like a controversial statement, but I think so many people want the shortcut. And I think TikTok has created this illusion that you can go from your bedroom to the arena really fast when something hits. And we've seen it. But then the outcome with that is you go viral. You're not prepared to be an artist. You're literally a one-hit wonder. You don't have a brand. No one knows who's behind the song. And you didn't lay the groundwork. And as fast as you rose, you disappear. So, and I think that's like a cultural thing, not just music. I think in general, people now just want the shortcut in life and YouTube's kind of this like long game. It's more if it was investing, YouTube's like Warren Buffett, long game, compound interest, where TikTok's kind of like the crypto bro, like what's the hot new coin? How can I make quick money? You know what I mean?
Great analogy. Yeah.
Yeah. No,
not to discredit anything. It's all good.
Yeah, no. That's helpful, and everyone is looking for the shortcut. And but yeah, you make a good point. I mean, it is laying the groundwork is very important. So you said you're focusing on premium artists. I mean, for the artists out there that are maybe more emerging, or they're working with DIY distributors, or they don't have a team or a partner like you to help them do this, what do you recommend artists do to capture this revenue? And who are the artists that you're working with, or the clients that you're open to working with? Or like, what are the emerging artists supposed to do when they like? Is there who do they go? How do they do this?
First and baseline, I think committing to, again, we always say it's more about consistency of content over frequency of content, right? You'll see like a lot of emerging artists, they'll blitz the platform and then kind of pull back and go away. So algorithmically, it's a little herky-jerky, and it becomes harder to develop a tie with your audience and even get insights into who your audience is. So being consistent with content output really helps to set a foundation and a baseline for emerging artists, for any artist, but especially for emerging artists on the platform as you're developing your channel and your content strategy.
Yeah, and then to monetize, you need a distributor, right? As an emerging artist, and you just need to like stay in the pocket, be consistent, and you need to find someone who can collect your money and then pay you transparently, right? That's YouTube's like really complicated. For us, because we handle it a little differently, our prerequisite isn't about how big you are. It's about your mentality, about the team, about your approach. Because we've done a couple case studies, but we did one with this group called Crash Adams. I don't know if you've ever heard of them. When we met them, they had 4,000 subscribers and their channel wasn't even available to monetize. But they had a really interesting point of view. They had a plan. And we were like, you know what? If these guys know what they're talking about, they just don't have a partner like us and they haven't executed their plan. So we got on early. And now about 26, 28 months later, from then to now, they're at 11 million subscribers. It's a it's big. It's a seven-figure business. And now they're signed to Warner Records for records. And they have a legitimate career. They have a huge fan base and it's a real business. But they had a point of view. They understood what needed to be done. And then we kind of slipped in there, worked with them, helped them understand their data, made sure we were capturing revenue. And we were really early on shorts as a company. So we had a really good idea on how to capture the revenue because the majority of their consumption is on short form. So I don't think it's about the size of the artist for our company. It's about what's your point of view? Are you committed to this? What's the angle? And then let's make sure we see the plan through because we have a couple instances where we've gone from zero to a real business pretty quickly. And it's because of just kind of the elements on what it takes to be an artist. If we don't work with you, because we can't work with everyone, I think going back to Donna's thing, it's like being committed, having a plan, and then making sure you have a distributor that can capture your sound recordings. Otherwise, YouTube is so complicated to navigate the money.
There's also like maybe most importantly an element of authenticity that like the audience can kind of smell if you're phony or trying to do something that's off-brand or doesn't feel authentic to who you're trying to be as an artist visually and sonically, I think.
Yeah.
And overproduction of the video and that era is over and doesn't really work on the platform the way that I think everyone kind of thinks your videos have to be produced. Right. So we see time and time again, kind of that element of authenticity really resonates and helps artists, especially emerging artists, really find the audience and rewards them as such.
Yeah, I mean, sure. The George, when you said artists should have a distributor to help them capture the revenue, every artist, if they're releasing music, has a distributor. Most of them, have a checkbox that says, "Do you want us to collect your YouTube money or whatever?" That being said, I had Kristen Robinson of Billboard on the show talking about the report that of the Latin music operatives that stole $26 million from YouTube revenue from artists because those artists didn't know how to collect all of their YouTube money.
Correct.
They all had distributors. Some of them had big labels too. So my question is, I don't know if having a distributor is really the best way to do it. I guess I'm looking for a solution.
Yeah.
So we don't become one of those artists that is giving away or is getting our money stolen by anyone else that wants to come in and claim it because we don't have access to the back end like you do or the CMS system or anything like that. So speak to that. What are artists and indie labels supposed to do?
Good question, man. That's great. First of all, Kristen's awesome, good friend, and we just did a really cool article with her. I'm not sure if you saw.
I read that. Yeah, it was great.
Yeah. So honestly, that's part of why we started the company, man. Is we were like, once we started diving in, we're like, collecting is one part of the issue, and the other part is like, because it's this black box that you're trusting the distributor to collect. And the majority of this revenue is UGC, right? And you have no insight into that whatsoever. Is all these bad actors have popped up, and some of them are really reputable names, like that article you referenced. It's a big company that was around, and they were, it was like 19 million or something crazy that was funneled away, and that happens a lot. So I think it's like, it's finding reliable, trusting sources. It's vetting it out, because it's right. So often you're like, yeah, I'm just going to check the box. And then it's like prayers up. At least on Spotify, you see all your views and you could pretty much know what's happening, right? If it's not being streamed from your source, you're basically, there's no other revenue, theoretically. On YouTube, it's not like that. So I think it's like you have to vet your partners in light of this like UMG TuneCore thing, right? That's another issue. And you just have to, I think distribution has become such a commodity, and there's all these distributors popping up, right? And they're all basically doing the same thing. A lot of them are built on the same technology that they're licensing from companies. And ultimately, it's like, why am I choosing this distributor over them? Oh, they have a name I recognize, or I was referred to them, or I have a friend who works there, I know someone. But outside of that, it's really complicated. Most companies, especially indie, are not set up to think about fraud and think about these things. They were built, it grew fast. It's a business of volume over quality. So by nature, if you have 20 million copyrights that you're trying to administer, that's really hard to make sure you're paying. And I think it's an interesting time in the industry that we've never really faced this volume of releases, and these companies need to be held accountable, because the person that's getting screwed is the artist, right? And it's really difficult. Like, I don't know if there's a solution. Again, it's that was a problem, and part of why we started is we said, let's work with clients. Let's offer full monetization, full transparency. We share dashboards with UGC. So if you're a client of ours, Ari, we would give you a dashboard that's updated every 24 hours to your earnings off platform. So you working with us can see your channel revenue updated every 24 hours, and all of your user generated content and X channel revenue that we update every 24, and we line item it. You can see it. It's not some abstract projection. It's like, hey, this piece of content that you didn't even know about has 10 million views, and you made this much money, and this is your RPM from it. And on top of it, we also go granular, and this is the countries and territories that piece of content is generating.
How automated is this process versus how manual is it?
It's a little, but honestly, it's a little both. I think YouTube, by nature of being owned by Google, has ridiculous technology, but it's about how you use it. So we have our CTO, Mike Flynn, came from Studio 71, and we very deliberately built it. I'm sorry?
Studio 71.
Yeah, which is a big creator. It's like a creator YouTube company. They do podcasting. It's a huge business. That's kind of like the OG kind of creator. Like, a lot of big influencers, creators use them to help maximize revenue. And when we were building this platform, we started realizing how complicated YouTube was. And we thought, you know what? Mike has so much experience. Studio 71 was on the forefront of a lot of creator initiatives. So we're taking this mindset and this mentality, and he's building technology manually. Obviously, we have a team that goes in and does quality control, and then we're leveraging the tech and the automations from Google to kind of capture all of it.
And the point of building kind of the dashboards and the platform launchpad is so that, like, that was an ongoing pain point, right? You either are waiting for the reports, you don't have visibility, you're looking at the channel, but it's so robust with analytics, maybe it's hard to understand. And then on top of that, you have zero visibility essentially into any of the UGC and kind of content that's using your IP. So a very, very tangible pain point, and building this dashboard, which pulls in virtually real time to allow insights on not only the consumption, but also the monetization of it was a very deliberate solution. And Mike helped build it, obviously. And it was just a very important component of the transparency that we care about.
Mm-hmm. What is I know you, I guess, what is the threshold of artist or client that you decide to work with? And are there, I know you said it's not like a subscriber number because you used the example of Crash Adams that started with 4,000 or whatever, but I'm assuming that's a fringe case. I'm assuming that it's not just any artist. I'm assuming you probably knew them or something, that like it's not just anyone with 4,000 subscribers and a vision you're gonna bring them on. So what is the threshold of when you decide to work with clients? And are there, I'm gonna keep harping on this, are there solutions for emerging indie artists that are not just trust your distributor? Because that's just not something we can do.
Right.
And I, my question, which I'm alluding to, is: are you ever going to open it up, or at least have a platform that is maybe more automated? Maybe it's at a point when you've reached the threshold. It's like, okay, you're eligible for monetization. You have 10,000 subscribers. You're making $500 a month minimum on YouTube Studio, but we think we can get access, something like that. That's what I'm getting at.
Good question. What was the first question you asked? I'm sorry, because it was a multi-part.
Yeah. Is there a threshold of threshold? Yeah.
So I think first, what was really important for us was the business is at baseline. Like, we feel like it's table stakes to be best in class collections. Like, if you're going to service an artist and you can't properly collect and you can't properly report, you shouldn't be in business, right? I was a former major label artist. I was in a band. I was signed to Island Records over 20 years ago. CD era, I used to sell CDs out of the trunk of my car in high school until we got signed. So I have sympathy because I was there. I remember getting our statement and it's like, how the fuck, what does this mean? And how much is this mine? Right?
Yeah.
Good luck. So I think, just to kind of answer your question, is at baseline, we felt we shouldn't come to the party if we can't do this. And then going back to our initial thing is, because it's part social network, we built a marketing team and a point of view around, hey, a video posted can only go so far, but if we build tools and infrastructure around it, promoting, helping our clients understand, having a marketing team to work with our larger clients, we have a playlist network of, almost 3,000 user-generated content playlists, because people engage with UGC on the platform. We can help place our music. We have an ad product to run ads if there's budget for that, right? That we built. We built a lyric video tool to create more surface area and high level. And this is why it works with larger artists, is when you go through that entire supply chain, value chain with us, we're taking your assets, we're collecting it, we're earning more on existing assets, and new assets are growing at a faster rate, right? That's very hard to scale, right? But I think the collections, the education, that I think when we get to a point, we will open it up. That's part of our ideas. We want to democratize the value add. Right now, we're very involved in larger artists campaigns because we know we can create so much value. If you're a major label artist or you're a big indie artist, like Brent Faiyaz, we've worked with for a long time. We've been working every single day. We think about, how do we maximize his UGC? What can we do? We've started channels around him. We've done really interesting stuff. A lot of that can be applied. And what Donna's really worked on is building this infrastructure on this platform we have called Launchpad. where we're giving access to this information that, let's say you're an artist, we're saying this is what you should do in the first 24 hours so your video performs better. These are ideas for how to set up your content, how to reintroduce. This is how best practices for optimization. And then it will get to a point where we'll offer the monetization and the transparency and all of that. But we want to make sure we deliver, because I think, again, a lot of these distributors, man, it's a game of scale, and everybody's so fixated on their valuation and fundraising, and you lose sight. And it's like, cool, so I'm an artist, I'm signed to a company, they're now valued at $1 billion. I haven't seen a statement in 3 months. I can't get anyone on the phone. They have 4,000 clients. 6 years ago, they didn't exist. 8 years ago, their founders didn't know anything about the music business. As an artist, that makes me feel like shit. And we're not trying to follow that path whatsoever.
Yeah, I think there's an in-between. I think there's a middle ground between only working with superstars and then being open to all, scraping the bottom. I mean, I think there's somewhere that's the threshold question that I keep coming back to, is this like, what, I think we are seeing the challenges from all the DIY distributors out there when they just open the floodgates and have everybody pour in. And you referenced earlier the UMG versus TuneCore situation. And for those that don't know it, it's basically UMG is suing TuneCore / Believe, their parent company, because they're saying that TuneCore is not monitoring what they are releasing to the DSPs, and that a lot of Universal's recordings, or sometimes even recordings, are ending up on these DSPs without authorization and illegally, and all of that. So I get that, and there's a lot of liability with all the DIY distributors. They're all on the hook. TuneCore is just the first to get sued, but guaranteed every single DIY distributor this is happening to. This is just, they just happen to be the first lawsuit. But so I totally understand that fear and that caution, which is very important. But it's challenging because there are literally tens of thousands of professional artists out there making decent revenue, having real careers, millions of fans. They're touring successfully. They probably are making a very good living just on their streaming revenue, that have no infrastructure for their YouTube. Zero. Right. Other than like using a distributor or their label, indie label or whatever. And there's been such a void in this industry for them. And I don't think anyone has had a solution for it. There have been these YouTube companies like you've referenced that have like gotten a few here and there. And if you're lucky to fall into that, cool. But there is a void here. And I'm curious, I'm wondering if anyone is going to fill that void. And it seems like you're positioned to potentially be able to, but it just doesn't seem like anyone really is focusing on it.
I would say we are positioned to, and I think we are trying to run into that gap. But what's really important to Donna and I is maintaining, excellent customer service, being to deliver on our promises. We always say that if we think we can't help you, we'll tell you, hey, yeah, we want the revenue, but we can't help you. Let us revisit the conversation. Maybe you're not in a position, whatever. Yeah. So I think that's important to us, is like, we want to fill that void. We want to be that company, but we also want to make sure we deliver on the promises. Because again, man, I was an artist. Every dollar counts, especially when you're independent. And we don't want to be a company that extracts value from clients. We want to add. And until we can do that at scale in a meaningful way for that tier that you're talking about, because that is a large tier, then we're going to, slow roll into it. I don't think there's like this urgency for us. I think as long as we deliver a good product, we do the results, we have a team that really cares, our people really care, and we're able to constantly deliver, then we'll make sure we enter that. And a lot of what we're doing in that tier, it's not only infrastructure around monetization, but it's the educational tools. And I think for 25, that's a big part of our business, is scaling that educational infrastructure to help that tier. And I think, I don't know, Dawn, if you want to add to that, because you're
I mean,
that lead.
again, going back to kind of a huge pain point for that echelon of artists specifically, the concept of Launchpad was birthed from that, because there was no way to centralize or utilize a hub for this information asymmetry that exists. Information asymmetry exists very strongly in music, period, right? Like understanding the way royalties, the breakdown IP, very challenging. YouTube, more so, arguably, and that intersection really makes it just black box for real. And Launchpad, again, is designed and is the foundation of providing education tools, a centralized hub, a place to submit your content that has to be delivered in a particular way to YouTube, so on and so forth, and building this infrastructure and this platform for enterprise partners, for individual artists, for managers, whomever it is to provide the education, the tools, the actual tech, and the whole ecosystem for artists, independent or otherwise, to be able to use a version of this ecosystem of services that we have at whatever tier it may be, right? It's not about like, oh, it's only A-list artists because it's about providing the information and minimizing that information asymmetry. And that starts with education, in our opinion.
What is your business model? How do you make money?
It's a rev share. So we'll make, it's a, like, I hate saying this, but we're literally the distributor for all things YouTube, right? So you think of us as a company that distributes your videos, your music, collects, we take a cut of that revenue. And the difference between us and these other distributors is all day, every person on our team, all they think about is YouTube, right? Which is kind of cool because it is complicated. And you go to a distributor and you might have like a marketing manager, and this person is in charge of every platform. It's so hard. They have, again, it's a tough business, man. You might have 200 artists that you're responsible for, and you have to switch your gears, where that's what we're doing. And I think it's hugely beneficial. So like our finance team, all they think about is finance royalties for YouTube. How can we streamline that? How can we account on an asset level, on ISRC level, our tech? And it's really cool. I'm pumped because it's such a complicated platform, as we've been talking about, that it's kind of cool that all day, every department, that's all they think about is process improvement. And like Donna said, then taking that information and sending it to our clients to help them better understand what the hell is happening. Crazy.
Well, cool. And I appreciate you both helping me understand what the hell is happening on YouTube, because it is, I know there are billions of eyeballs there and money and billions of dollars and all that stuff. It's not something that I think enough of us have paying attention to. And I appreciate you breaking it all down. And I think it's going to inspire people to kind of take it a little bit more seriously. When do you think an artist or a label should really start taking YouTube seriously in terms of all the aspects that we've been talking about, from just fan building to like discovery via maybe it's short form to the shorts or something, to engagement with more of the storytelling aspects like you touched on, to finally, most importantly, one would argue, monetization, and at what stages of their careers do they kind of move into these areas, and how do they do that?
Honestly, I know it's easy to say, but I think you have to start immediately. Like, you look at the data, if you look back again, and it being in the music industry, it's so easy to get caught up in like the Spotify vortex, because by nature, it's kind of become industry standard for various reasons, right? Mainly because the majors have equity in it and they, somewhat still have influence. But you look at the data and it's like YouTube is doing the NFL deal, right? So the NFL moved their premium product onto YouTube. YouTube TV sponsors the NBA. YouTube is the number one growing platform on TV. Like the writing's on the wall, right? So like you have a huge distribution, the consumption done correctly, again, difficult. The monetization opportunities are high. And I think if you start early and you think of it as more of like a media component of your business, right? Like we're back in this era of like programmatic media, you will be very successful because you can build hardcore fan bases that will then buy merch or tickets, right? Because it's like your hardcore fan base, but it's also a media component. And I think electronic music got this really early. Like Ultra Records, their YouTube channel is huge. It's a platform for introducing stuff. It's a huge revenue platform, spin-in records. They got on really early. And now obviously they have this massive foundation for marketing, revenue, data, et cetera. So I think the sooner you can get onto it, and unless something crazy happens, it doesn't feel like YouTube's going anywhere, where like Vine got crushed. Twitter is crazy. TikTok might be banned. Meta and the issues, like it's pretty stabilized that I think it's just like something you should do. And it's like, it is modern media. And we are ultimately, right, we're in a media business. So you just have to like think about it differently.
Right on. Well, George, Donna, thank you guys so much for both coming on the show. This is a super helpful, illuminating conversation. I have one final question that I ask everyone who comes on, and that is, what does it mean to you to make it in the new music business?
Wow. Donna.
I partially speak for myself. Partially, I think the ethos of why we do this. I think George was an artist himself. I managed artists. I was an independent artist. And I think adding value to artists so that they can focus on artistry in a way that is a genuine component of culture and is a snapshot of kind of what's going on at any given time in culture globally is the point. Because at the end of the day, like, what are we even doing? We all love music. We all love media. We all love culture. And creating infrastructure or an ecosystem or business or whatever it is to allow artists to be better artists and to disseminate their artistry, I think at the end of the day, to me, is like making it, because you're adding value to the creation of culture.
Cool.
Great answer. I think it's being able to do it as a full-time job, like to just and piggyback off Donna's thought. Now you can make music, you can have a Patreon account, you can do stuff, and you could live like it. The opportunity to be a manager, an artist, a label, agent, whatever, is so like the playing field has leveled, and you could have a really lucrative career off Patreon or Twitch or whatever. And I think that's really cool, where before it used to be making it was getting signed to a major label. And I don't think that's the case anymore. I think independence is a really exciting thing. And I think there's a lot of different ways to do it. So I don't think this shiny object of having a Billboard Hot 100 doesn't mean making it anymore. There's an awesome world where you could have a legitimate career doing what you love, and possibly never even leaving your house. And that's kind of cool.
Right on. Thanks, George, Donna. That was great. Thank you so much.
Awesome, man. Thank you.
Today's episode was edited by Ari Davids with music by Grassroots District and produced by all the great people at Ari's Take.